Rather than being an onlooker, thinking of the end, become a partaker, thinking from the end. And this is a quote from Neville Goddard. And today we are talking about Chapter 7 of my book, Rat Race Reboot. And this is about transforming goals into actionable plans. So you're going to want to stick around for today's episode.
The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Rat Race Reboot. I'm your host, Laura Noel. And as a certified coach and former 27-year military leader, each week I provide bite-sized mindset pivots that will help you reset your mind, reawaken your spirit, and regain your control. Welcome back to another episode of Rat Race Reboot. If you've been following us in the past several weeks, I've been going through each of my chapters from my book, Rat Race Reboot. And I have some pages bookmarked and earmarked, and we're ready to have a great conversation. So if you remember, last week, we've been talking about goals. What are worthy goals? What are goals that are worthy of your greatness? And the idea of setting a C type of goal, a goal, something that you've never achieved before and you have no idea how to get there. That's a goal that's truly worthy of you. We talked about the importance of writing your goals down, and so that we can keep them in the forefront of your mind. Because if we don't keep and continually tell our brain that this is important by writing our goal, speaking our goal, thinking from the end point of already having achieved our goal, it's easy to allow life to drag us down different paths. And then we discover a few months down the road, we're no longer in alignment with our goal. So we've been talking about also having that goal statement written down in the affirmative. So you want to write that goal statement down as if you've already achieved the goal and using only positive language. And remember from our previous episodes that our brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, what's positive and negative. It's just taking our language as is. So it's really important that this goal be written in the affirmative. So now that we have our goal, our worthy goal, worthy of our greatness, and we have it written down and we're getting connected with that goal each and every day through writing it, through speaking it, through imagining it. Now we want to start developing that plan. And Luna is really excited about this too, if you heard her in the background. So chapter 7 is about building the mission, building that mission for yourself so that you can continue moving forward. So in order to get started down this path of manifesting and really seeing this goal come to fruition, we've got to set a plan. We've got to take some action steps and at least on a broader scale, think about an overall plan, right? A strategic plan for that. And there's an exercise that I talk about in the book that I learned from Bob Proctor. And it's called the 3-3-3 exercise. And briefly, what this is a gentleman in Canada, after a horrific tornado had swept through this town, he was well known in the community and he got a bunch of community leaders together and he said, how would you like to raise $3 million get it in 3 hours and get it funded in 3 days? And he asked this group of people that question. And somebody said, yeah, how is that even possible? And he said, I didn't ask you how we could do it. I asked you if we could, would you like to do it? And so everybody agreed. And so he took a sheet of paper on a whiteboard and he wrote a line down the center of it. And on the left-hand side, he wrote down at the top, why we can't. And then he drew a big X through that entire column. And then on the right-hand side of that page, he wrote how we can. And he said, what I'm going to ask you to do is brainstorm ways that we can make this happen. And if anybody says anything to the contrary or starts to get into the how or the yeah, buts, we're going to kindly say next. And we're going to disregard that comment. And we're going to keep populating this right-hand side of the page with possible scenarios or paths toward making this a reality and making this happen. And even if an idea is totally bonkers and crazy, we're going to write it down anyway. And so these individuals were all a part of the radio stations in Canada. And so they were radio station owners, or they were affiliated with it in one way or another. And so people were shouting out ideas. And one of the first ideas was, we can get all the radio stations on board and we can have a fund drive. And he's like, great idea. And he wrote it down on the whiteboard. And somebody said, yeah, but how are we going to do that when they're all in competition with one another? And so the room got quiet for a second. And then the gentleman at the board said, next. And then somebody said, I wonder if we could get a celebrity to MC this fundraiser. And then somebody said, well, how are we going to get a celebrity in such short notice? And then another person sheepishly said in the audience, next. But they kept populating this list. And before you know it, they had some wonderful ideas, some outlandish ideas. But the thing is, and the point of this exercise is to get your creativity flowing and to train your mind only to look for solutions instead of focusing on obstacles. So at the end of the day, long story short, and I tell it a little bit more in detail in the book, is they did raise $3 million in 3 hours, and they got it funded in 3 days. And that was a pretty incredible thing. So this is a powerful exercise that I ask my clients to do, and that I do myself whenever I feel like I'm stuck, or I have a lofty goal or a next level of my goal, and I have no idea how to get there. So once you come up with all these ideas written down on a piece of paper, and I only want you to spend about no more than 5 minutes doing this. You don't want to overthink it. Whatever comes top of mind to you, that's what you want to write down on your piece of paper. So with all of those ideas, maybe only 1, 2, 3 of them are actually going to be viable for you. Pick 1 or 2. Those are your strategies that you're going to employ and further develop, so that you can move closer toward your goal. So you're going to narrow down those strategies. That's the next step. Then you're going to start to write a detailed action plan. I want you to write a written description of the strategies, those 1 or 2 strategies, and then organize those into action plans in terms of level of importance. And then the next part of this is, I want you to think about, when you write these action steps down, think about the skills that you would need in order to take these action steps, or the skill sets you would need in order to take these action steps. Now, some of the skill sets you need, you might be able to develop yourself, but I also want you to take it a step further, and that goes into the next step of this process, is build a mastermind around you. Who's in that mastermind? Well, people who can help you advance those action steps, and people who you could also help in some way. So once you write down those action steps and you discover the skills or skill sets you would need to move in that direction, think about people already in your network who possess those skills. You might want to learn some of those things yourself, and that's okay. But you don't have to learn every aspect of every action you want to take. You can this is when we really start to make quantum leaps, is when we start to leverage the talents of people who are already in our network. And so I teach you how to do that in the book, Rat Race Reboot. So I want you to get a copy. In fact, if you go to ratracereboot.com, you'll see you can subscribe to my newsletter, and I'm giving you a free chapter of the book, and I'll send you a link so you can get your copy on Amazon. But you want to build your mastermind with people who can help you and who you can also help. And you want to make sure that you're aligned. So you want to make sure that people have the necessary knowledge, that you can support one another. They're willing to put forth the effort, and everybody has this spirit of harmony for the attainment of everybody's collective goal in the group. And then you want to take action. You want to make a commitment every single day to take inspired action toward your goal. And I've talked about this in previous episodes. You have a beautiful analytical mind. I want you to leverage that, but there's another part of your mind, your intuitive mind, that oftentimes we don't leverage enough. And so inspired action, and I describe that in the book, is getting in harmony, living from your goal, not thinking about your goal as a destination, but tapping into what would it feel like once I reach this goal? How would I carry myself? What would I dress like? Who would I be surrounding myself with? How would it feel being in this goal manifested? And then I want you to live from that feeling as if you already have it. Now, when you come to that space and you can really get connected with the feeling of your goal, when you have ideas or little flashes of inspiration, I want you to act on it immediately. Write it down and don't walk, run. Take action, because this is what inspired action is all about. It's being in harmony with the goal, getting an idea, a flash of inspiration that is also in harmony with your goal. And even if it doesn't make 100% sense right now, take a first step. That's what taking committed action and taking inspired action is all about. So we briefly touched on chapter 7 of my book, Rat Race Reboot. And this is all about building the mission and how do you do that? Also, when you get a copy of the book, there's links in here and there's a workbook, and I'll take you through this process step by step. I'm just giving you a high level view today to inspire you to take action, do it. And if you have questions, let me know. I want to hear how this is going for you. Next week, we're going to talk about chapter 8. All right. Now that we have the plan, now that we have the beautiful vision for our goal, and we have some strategies mapped out with actions, and we were building our mastermind around us, how do we build that mental Kevlar and resilience when it looks like things aren't happening for us? And maybe even we're not seeing our goal manifest quickly enough, or maybe we have some naysayers around us. How do we build that mental Kevlar that can arm us and keep us strong and keep us attuned and aligned with our goal? That's going to be next chapter. So if you've enjoyed this, I want to hear your comments. Go to ratracereboot.com, whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. You leaving a review or a 5-star review or leaving comments is what helps the algorithms get this out to more people. And I want you to stay tuned, get your copy of the book, Rat Race Reboot, get your free first chapter so you can start to dive in while you're waiting for your Amazon purchase to arrive. You can also get it on Kindle. And we will see you next week for chapter 8 on how to build that resilience and mental Kevlar. But remember, everything is created twice, first in your mind and then in physical form. We'll see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.